Lance, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I want to break down this news over the past few days that OpenAI is now going to be allowing erotica on ChatGPT. This is something that's going to happen in a few weeks. So, what was your first reaction to that announcement?
Well, I'm not. I mean, every first of all, every single time there's any AI update across any of the models, any of the platforms, people are always trying all sorts of stuff with it. It's not just adult content. It's putting known figures, historical or current figures into weird situations. Literally, just a little while ago, OpenAI just said that they're going to sort of pull back a little bit on Sora 2 because people are using Martin Luther King in like speeches he never made, and I had noticed that right away. So none of this is surprising. People will give people a tool to do what people do. That's what happens. But I should add that what's interesting about what's happening here is this all kind of came about because of GPT-5. So GPT-5 took the whole model and kind of, I don't know, leveled it up, made it more adult, made it less adult, meaning like mature or less interesting, less sycophantic, sort of this weird kind of pulling away from what I don't think OpenAI realized how people had connected with 4.0, the previous model. It's very strange that people make these connections with these models, but they did. And so GPT-5 kind of cleaned all that up. And the post that Sam made, which mentioned the erotica, was really just about kind of reopening GPT-5 up, sort of having this balance of we'll make sure that people are protected for mental health awareness, but we're also going to recognize you're adult people who want to do what you want to do. And so there'll be a pathway for you to do that with GPT-5. So, and I don't know if you noticed after that Sam Altman, like, I don't know, it was the next day or whatever, is like, gosh, I had no idea you were all going to fixate on the erotica so much. I'm like, duh, the people, this is what they do. And so it's kind of like, maybe it's not that big of a deal. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things that we've seen from Sam Altman over the past few months is that he always seems shocked by things that those of us who work in the tech space would not be shocked about. So that certainly is a bit of a surprise that maybe there's a disconnect in terms of him understanding the reaction that people will have. One of the things that I don't really understand from this announcement, and I say announcement, I'm kind of putting quotes around that because it really, it's not like it was a big new release, is why do you think that they want to serve all of these different audiences? And I ask that because I think we've seen historically with some of the big tech companies is that they tend to do well when they focus on business or focus on consumers, focus on adults. Like even if you look at the history of the porn industry, I mean, they've been very clear that, hey, this is for adults. But it feels to me like Sam Altman wants to appease everyone, and I just don't think that's possible.
Well, let's think about what's happened with AI. So every conversation I have with people about this revolution, I say we're living on AI time, right? Everything's happening faster than it would, even in the normal tech space where it took 18 months for something to happen. It'll take like 6, right? So it's at least 3x the times that we used to see. So that's part one. Part two is that and this is directly related to it, is that AI is connected to consumers, regular people, in a way that previous emerging technologies never did or never did in that amount of time. It took a much longer time for everyone to get on the internet. It took a much longer time for people to have smartphones. Everything it took much longer time for everyone to really get engaged on social media. But AI, talk to anyone outside of our sphere. And they'll be like, yeah, I used it. I'm like, what? Yeah, I just used it the other day. Like, but you're not a tech person. Yeah, it was on my phone. Yeah, I had an app. It was on my computer. It was here, and I just used it. I asked it a question, and it gave me what I wanted. So that's cool. But yeah, I'm also terrified of it. So, when you think of it that way, that this touches everybody, it doesn't matter who you are, what you do, it kind of makes sense that Sam Altman is going after everybody. And, at a very base level, everyone's a sexual being, right? So there's that. And I think he's kind of saying, well, that's part of the human experience. So let's not act as if this thing doesn't exist. And I think I mentioned to you on one of the many platforms, I said that there is a long history, right, of sort of the adult industry leading the way in technology, right, causing the breakthrough. And maybe he feels that he sort of left that bit out. It certainly happened with VHS tapes, with CDs, with the internet, with streaming. I was thinking back to that the fact that I literally saw the first time I saw streaming video at CES was from an adult entertainment company. Before Netflix, before any of them, some company that made their own box, and we all thought it was magic. It was gross, and it was magic. So I'm actually not surprised, but I also don't entirely know what he really means when he says erotica. Like, what does that actually encompass? Like, because there's a lot of different ways to go here.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I just for fun went on to ChatGPT and asked that exact question. What are the plans in terms of allowing erotica? And it was interesting to see the response because a lot of it was focused on AI companions and recognizing that right now more and more people are using tools like ChatGPT because they are experiencing loneliness and they do want companionship. And so, in that context, I think I too can understand why he potentially would want people to be able to have really, open adult-like conversations. But the place that things kind of break down for me a little bit is that you hear Sam Altman talk a lot about young people. It is true as well that when it comes to ChatGPT, it's 13 plus, and so those questions make me just wonder aloud why he's courting people who are, again, under 18 potentially, but also trying to appease adults. And at the same time, it was just months ago that he got into so much trouble in terms of the issues that we've seen with young people using ChatGPT for mental health support, even leading to the suicide of a young man that, of course, has been all over the headlines over the past few months. So that piece of to me is a little bit confusing. He kind of wants both young people to use
Yeah.
it and adults, and I don't know if you can do that.
I know it goes back to that statement you made, a tool for everyone. Like, can this really serve all people? And, I think that there's a, it's just a weird situation right now because there's no slowing this development down, right? How often do we see model updates? I mean, it comes every few months, 2 to 3 months. We have a new model and it's faster and better and more powerful. It can do things you never expected. And so that's happening concurrently with the mass adoption of this thing. So it's almost like they have to have an answer for every kind of person, and they sort of try. I think that because of the speed of everything, total lack of guardrails, zero regulation of any sort that actually makes any kind of sense. And I don't even know if they're going to try and put at some point, they're gonna really try and put regulation in place while the cart is speeding down the hill at 100 miles an hour. Good luck changing the tires. Not going to happen. It's just going to keep going. And so, that's why you see situations like this where speaking almost seems to be out of both sides of his mouth. Like, well, we're going to worry about mental health of kids, and here's some adult content, and all of it at once. So simultaneously, because everybody's in AI, right? So Meta is just making it possible now for parents to say, your kids can't talk to our AI characters. You can turn it off. This is months after them saying, "Hey, guess what? We got all these cool AI characters everyone can talk to." Da, da, da," because no one realized what was going to happen. It's almost like nobody. They're. It's like building Frankenstein monsters over and over and over again, and then you hit the electricity, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, they're running around killing things and throwing kids into lakes and stuff." I had no idea that was going to happen. Uh, but nothing kills the Frankenstein monster; it just keeps going on. And I don't think all AI is monstrous by any stretch. But I think that there's this level, total lack of control. And, when you hear things like this and the fact that you asked ChatGPT, what do you mean by that? And it's kind of like, well, it says mean that they're trying companionship. I didn't say companionship. I said erotica, but companionship. These are different things in a way. And yet we don't have clarity. We just have excitement, confusion, more stuff to do, more things to look at, more confusion. And I wish I could say that I thought things were gonna get better, but I think that's not the case. It's a very unusual time we live in, so it's more like just try and stay abreast of it, stay in contact and know what's going on, and try and figure out what these things actually mean, but for young people in particular, I really think that there's a strong case for keeping them away from tools like this for as long as possible because you just don't know the outcomes.
You have been reporting on tech for many, many years, and I think one of the things I think about a lot with this new era of tech leaders is that they seem to be pushing boundaries in a way that we haven't really seen before. It was pretty accepted in the early days of social media that the tech companies would, in fact, have guardrails in place to keep people safe. When do you think that focus and that need kind of disappeared because now we have Mark Zuckerberg, we have Elon Musk, we have Sam Altman, who again they don't want to be the moral police of the world, and yet they basically are running our world in terms of our digital experiences online, especially in social.
Yeah, there's that show that was on, Alien Earth, right? And one part of it is that the world is run by a bunch of sort of tech oligarchs, like it's chunked up by these people. And in our real world, these people are very powerful. They have tremendous control, and I sometimes don't even think they understand the level of it. They're just kinda like, "Cool stuff, cool stuff." I think the guardrails have come off because culture has taken a shift in the last few years, and in the US in particular in the last year or so, and, we see that I mean, this is why we're not approaching regulation at this moment because I'm not sure they really care. They're much more, there is a recognition that country by country we're in a race, right? We're in a race versus China and other countries that are developing, fast developing these tools. And any kind of regulation, any kind of caution, care might hold us back. And I think that that's a very different time from when we were social media was first coming up. I mean, there was a period of time with social media where, it was just kind of fun. It was the golden age, I used to call it, like the period of 2009 to 2013, roughly that period of time. It was great. You were meeting and talking to people and engaging with personalities and just regular people you would never have met before, sharing ideas, learning things. News events were happening in real time, and you were seeing it. It felt wonderful. And then it kinda broke because the rest of the world and bad actors realized that this was a tunnel, a pipeline to your brain, and you could flood it, with information, and that actually caused a pullback. So we had that little period of time of pullback and caution and care and concern, and that went so maybe it went all the way the other way, but now we're kind of like whatever, mostly whatever. And it's only moments of tragedy where somebody maybe is compelled to do something terrible to themselves because they talk to an AI where everyone goes, "Oh, yeah, yeah, okay. We'll do something. We'll make sure there are guardrails for kids." But you and I both know the reality with kids and social media and technology. One, they're usually ahead of the parents. Two, good luck getting them to verify their age. Parents have to really be on top of it to ensure that their kids are not on these platforms because otherwise they're just going to say whatever age works that gives them the most access to all of this stuff. I wish I had some good answers for you. I feel like I've given you nothing but terrible answers.
No, I think you have brought up so many good points, and this question around parental consent, I think, is one where these big tech companies either they don't understand how people use devices among families and in homes, especially young people and teens, or they're just lying to people and slapping on these parental controls because they're trying to appease people who do want those guardrails in place. But anyone in the technology sector will understand that young people, especially teens, I have a 16-year-old at home, so I know this, is not going to come to me and say, "Hey, I want to use ChatGPT. Would you get me an account and oversee what I'm doing?" That is just not a conversation that these people are having, which kind of, I think, begs the question to some of these tech leaders is that are they lying or are they just okay with doing the bare minimum. Those things I can't quite figure out in this day and age, and that's where all of us are kind of perplexed, right?
I mean, look, they're all businesses, right? They're all dealing with shareholders. They're all worried about making money for themselves, for the shareholders, to perpetuate the business. I mean, that is fundamentally what these things are. They are not for the public good. That is, sometimes a byproduct of what they provide, and sometimes it's not. It is, we hear so technology is so permeated our society, and the fact that we all carry around these phones and that our kids have them at a certain age, and that it's inescapable. It's at every turn. And it used to be very simple, back in 25 years ago, when people would talk to me about issues like this, kids and technology, I'd say, going online. They say, how do we protect our kids? And they go online. I'd say, have the computer out in a central space so that you're all, if anyone's going online, you're all together. That was when it didn't fit in your pocket. And now I don't know what that answer is. The answer is, what's interesting is I'm seeing some reports of some schools. There's actually a school near where I live where they're banning phones in the school. So at least during that time, there are literally no phones. No phones in class, no phones in the hallway, just none all day long. And it's a transformative thing. Even the kids are saying it's a transformative thing. And I think we have to kind of rethink how we're introducing technology into our families, to our children, because we know they're going to encounter these tools. We know they're going to encounter ChatGPT. They are going to sometimes be in their class, and it's going to be part of the learning process, right? So that's a controlled space, and that's great. So then you have to think about, well, what happens if they have access to it outside of that controlled space? So I don't envy my kids are adults. They're grown up. It's not something I have to worry about, and I'm glad about that because I can see how difficult it is. But I wish more people spent more time thinking about it, and I wish these companies were, as you kind of put it, would be more honest about this stuff. They'd recognize the realities of situations and stop providing band-aids and say, well, look, we did what we need to do. You have the control. Isn't that enough?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think of another thing that I think about all the time, specifically with OpenAI, is that we know that ChatGPT in the context of work can be incredibly powerful for so many people, right? We know that when it comes to businesses using ChatGPT, it gives people a leg up. It gives them the ability to be able to do more. The possibilities are really endless. And I kind of wonder if too many stories like this, where Sam Altman continues to sort of fail our kids, will impact those larger enterprises who are making choices about which of these large language models they want to use, when all of a sudden they know that, hey, there's a lot of controversy surrounding OpenAI, for example, in terms of the lack of protection for kids. Is this something you could see hurting Sam Altman and OpenAI in the long run?
You know, from what I can understand, every time I talk to a company and I ask them about, well, what models are you using, for whatever product, and it's always a mix. Like they're picking. Well, I've got some Chat GPT or OpenAI models. I got some Gemini 2.5 or Nano Banana models. I got some Claude in there. Like there's like ingredients. I keep pouring it in. They don't really care. They're just looking for the best models for the given task, right? So there seems to be little concern. There's tremendous competition, but there's also tremendous opportunity. Um, and so we're in a period, people talk about the AI bubble. I actually don't think we're in the middle of a bubble. I think we're in the middle of a very rapid moving revolution. This is the AI revolution, with the industrial revolution, the knowledge revolution. We all these different. This is AI revolution. That's why it's all happening so fast, and why it seems like you can't knock these companies down. They get temporarily sort of like, oh, oops, my bad. This is what I actually meant. They throw something out there. People aren't happy. I go, no problem. 2 weeks from now, you'll have something better or sooner. Um, all they know is that if they do not continue to innovate, if they don't continue to develop these things and move fast, they will fall behind. They will lose. No one knows who the winner is here. There is no winner at this moment. There's nobody even. I mean, ChatGPT, OpenAI is arguably in the leadership position, but Google's on its heels with Gemini. Microsoft might start to develop some of its own stuff outside of its partnership. Claude, Perplexity, this all of these companies are all like they're tight in there. It's very close. Even Amazon, with its tools that it's building. So this is actually early days. It sounds insane because we're all using this stuff already, but it is early days. So I would be shocked if any of this hurts any of them. Again, most of the people think that the harm that's happening is sort of edge cases, and that the future is very bright around AI and it will eventually do great things. Now, I should say, because I feel like I'm so negative on this. Yesterday, I wrote a story about a Gemma open model that helped researchers find perhaps a novel treatment for cancer, possibly. And that's because model was able to work through data in a way that humans could not. That's the dream, right? That's what's supposed to happen. But I don't hear a lot about that. But I have to believe that that's a direction we're going.
I am with you on this. I do a lot of speaking about AI, and I talk a lot about AI in the context of healthcare. And I think it's really exciting insofar as the possibilities and the opportunities there, and life saving opportunities and life changing opportunities. I mean, it's amazing. I think about companies like Whoop. I wear a Whoop band all the time, and they just did a partnership so that you're able to take your blood work and basically upload it to Whoop, and then along with all your vitals, your sleep and your strain, your exercise, you'll be able to better understand the state of your health. I mean, all of this stuff I think is tremendous. I think the one piece that I struggle with a little bit is probably the companion piece of AI, because, like you said, we see all of these big tech companies doing this. We see this with Grok, for example, and those experiences always end up being sort of sexualized in terms of having these kind of sexy avatars that people can talk to. We see it with Meta and their AI companions, and now we see Sam Altman getting into this space in a small way, but we know companionship is what I think a lot of people are actually using ChatGPT for, and that will probably continue. Is this piece something that you see as a positive in terms of the effects on our society, or do you think that the more we rely on having AI companions, is that going to kind of take away from the human experience?
Well, I think there's ample evidence that we need a lot more human togetherness. We don't seem to understand each other very well. AI is no substitute for that. But at the same time, there are always going to be situations where people are lonely or unable to be with other people. I think back to, going back 25 years and since then, what we've seen is a bit of development around the idea of elderly people who can't leave wherever they are. And so they have these companions that are usually robotic. There was Paro and there's been others. And they really just give them a sense of connection because they can't go out and do it. So imagine people in a similar situation and have this ability to just feel less alone because they're able to talk to an AI companion has a memory of the conversations they've had. So it has an understanding of them, knows what they like, what they don't like, understands their lives a little bit, and can use that to kind of make a semi-realistic, what seems to be a realistic friendship or companionship. I think that's useful. Uh, but I don't think that when you have the ability to be around other people and you can get out there and talk to real human beings, it should be a substitute for that because that's always going to be the best thing for people, as far as I know. Look, I'm no expert on interpersonal relationships, but I have to believe that talking to real people who are not trained on the corpus of information that's on the internet, which is still in a way narrowly focused. It doesn't give you the context of the here and the now and the person in front of you. I have to think that that's always going to be still the best thing. But there's other reasons that people have fantasies that they want to, and this is where this whole adult thing goes in. And, there's a lot of that for whatever reason. And I'm not gonna say even that's bad. I don't know. I think that there has to be a balance. The problem is when there's something new and exciting like this, usually things go out of balance, right? It kind of floods in that direction until there's a course correction. And there always is, right? There's always kind of like the middle ground where we start to, something supplants it, or we start to realize, oh, we have to have a balance. And I think we're not there yet. We're kind of in the like, let's all go, let's do it, and get an AI companion. Not me though.
Well, I think I see that, on a day-to-day basis, and I certainly appreciate the example of, older people who are isolated and, do want that companionship. I think there's lots of ways that AI can play a role there, but, I think time and time again, and I mean, it seems like you would agree with this as well, the real issues come into play when we're talking about the under 18 crowd, right? And so, speaking of fantasies, my fantasy is that one of the tech leaders or maybe a few of them get together and say, "Hey, you know what? uh, this stuff isn't really for kids. So 18 plus, have fun and enjoy your day." And I think that would actually solve quite a few problems that exist here, but I'm not confident that will happen. So I put it in the
Yeah.
fantasy category for now.
Yeah, that one. Look, it didn't happen with the internet. It's not going to happen with this. It's just, we're only going to learn in a way through pain and suffering. Where it's like there's going to be a lot of things. We're like, oh, why did that happen? Oh, right. Well, okay. Well, we'll try a little better. But I think the lessons history sort of has taught us, not necessarily always the right lesson, but like when we had, when you can drink alcohol in the 20s, right? What it was called, I'm forgetting the word for it, but basically no one could, right? And that was
Oh,
like,
prohibition, yeah.
right, prohibition. So then you have like all this crime that comes from it. So you want to be careful of that, but at the same time, I think that it's not necessarily a good analogy because, uh, you know, we know that there is content and information and interactions that people under 18 should not have. But
Yeah,
AI doesn't
absolutely.
intuitively know that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, thank you so much for helping to break this down for me. Just for people who want to read some of your work, I know, like I mentioned, you've been around for a couple of decades, and I have followed you for a really long time. It's great to finally connect in person, or at least over video. So, where can people go to follow along with your work?
Yeah, well, I'm currently editor at large for TechRadar.com, so you can go there and find stuff that I'm writing all the time. And of course, I'm on TikTok and I'm on various social on X and Blue Sky and Threads, talking up a storm. And sometimes you'll see me on television and go, "Why?" I don't know.
I love it. Love your work. Thank you so much for joining me today, Lance.
No, thanks for having me.